Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. I'm Paul, I'll be your host this evening, and you know what? It's episode 50, yay!
Raise the bet, just shout to the crowd.
So wonderful, well, small milestone, let's be honest. All fun and games with this because we enjoy doing it, not because of these accolades, etc. But hey, if you would like to support New Zealand Sports Radio, head over to nzsportsradio.com or you can head over to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio and become a supporter. I have just put out there a new podcast looking at how do you spend $300 million? Yes, talking about Silver Lake money and how to spend it or how not to spend it. So you can catch that. It's already out as a podcast. I'll put it out as a video after this show. So check that out, folks. That's only for supporters of New Zealand Sports Radio. And joining me this evening to go through all the rugby news, I've got Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
All right.
And Stephen, how you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Privilege and a pleasure, as always.
Absolutely, especially if you can get the words out.
Me too.
How's your week started, boys? Had a good lot of rugby news come your way, Ashwin?
Have we? I don't know. That's why I come here to watch the show to find out what's happening. Oh, no, wrong well. No.
Okay.
Look, it's been interesting. There's quite a bit that's come out on the wires, and we'll go through some of it.
Yeah, what we'll do, folks, is we'll go through a news section where we'll try and zip through a whole bunch of stuff that's been out in the news wires, and then we'll have a couple of discussion topics. We'll have a look at Stephen's Super Rugby Aotearoa 15. We'll talk about Super Rugby Trans-Tasman, what are our expectations, and also what are the law variations that they're going to be using in that one. So that will be our discussion topics this evening. But before we get there, let's kick off with some news then. So TJ Perenara has signed for the Hurricanes and Wellington through till 2023. I guess, Stephen Ashwin, is this something that you were expecting, or is this something that you guys were, or do you think he was going to go over to the Roosters?
Oh, it's that is good.
Absolutely great. That is fantastic.
Look, I mean, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I wasn't too worried, tell you the truth, if he went to league. On a couple of fronts, I actually think we've got a couple of good guys coming through, especially with Fakatava. I really can't wait to see Fakatava in a black jersey, to be honest. And then there's the element of how will he go. So I thought it was a win-win if he had gone. In saying that, I think in the back of my mind, to me, it was increase my contract ploy.
I think it could have come down to insurance by the sounds of things, because if he got injured, he was only going to be given his league earning potential rather than his rugby union earning potential, and so he couldn't get insurance cover for his full money. So I think that's why he didn't go in the end and ended up back in union. Well, we're talking about a difference of insurance cover of a different about $800,000. So yeah, it was a chunk of change if he were to get injured and out for his career.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, yeah, okay.
So TJ's back. I think it's a good signing on the whole for the Hurricanes, especially, but also not bad for New Zealand rugby. Laumape, though, is heading offshore to Stade Francais, tripling his money there. Not totally surprised about that, considering the people that have been ahead of him, ahead of ahead of the All Blacks. I'm not surprised that he didn't get given a big contract, a big dollar number offer from New Zealand Rugby, because look, he hasn't been at the forefront of the All Black selectors. Let's be honest, he's been a fringe squad member, so it doesn't surprise me that I think they've decided to save their money on that one and let him go overseas. On that one, I'm going to rattle through these news items, boys. If you've got any comments about them, do jump in and stop me. Michael Collins also heading overseas off to Ospreys. And Michael Collins, as he hasn't been capped by the All Blacks, then maybe he's Welsh eligible apparently. So maybe we'll see Michael Collins pulling on the red of Wales, but I can't see that one, to be honest with you. He's just going over as a
Hadley Park's number 2.
Yes, Hadley Park's number 2. Exactly. He could be the answer for Wales problem at number 12. Nocturnal Right says, did the problem of Fakatava's eligibility swing TJ back to rugby? I have no idea what that problem is, to be honest with you. So there we go. I don't think there's any problem with him being eligible for the All Blacks. But do put it in the chat what that is.
Apparently, there's some discussion around, and I don't know, Steve, if you up with it, it's around some of the changes with 5 years residency in a country before you can become eligible, and something along the lines of that that I did hear. And apparently, yeah, there's something around it. There is something around it. I don't know the full details, but there's some talk of, with 2 minutes left in the game, chuck him on there this year so that we don't have that, the issue doesn't rise its ugly head. But I can't remember what the exact issues are.
I was surprised by that, because I think he's done, well, he was at high school at least, so you'd think he'd been around for 5 years. But anyway, we'll have to wait. I'm not sure what that is. So that's the sort of signing news. Actually, that's the overseas signing news. NPC levels. Stephen, you're over this better than I am, but apparently Offa and Fafita are both on the move.
Yeah, well, Offa's just been confirmed this evening, so the source that I got on Offa was correct, but I haven't looked over exactly when that contract starts, whether it's originally I was told it was 22 through 24, but it is 2 seasons. Whether that starts this season or next season, we're yet to see, but it is happening. Yeah, a little bit of talk around about via Fafita maybe moving to Counties Manukau. I've just, like I say, that trail has gone a little bit cold at this stage, and given that Counties have already in recent times signed Hoskins Situtu, wow, I didn't realise they had so much money in the kitty, so to speak. So yeah, just interesting times. Now, apart from the players that you mentioned that are heading offshore, no, not much really else on that NPC scene happening at the minute. But I suppose, Paul, the deadline for anybody wanting to transfer unions, I think, is July 1st. For any player around the country so for example, if there's a player playing in Auckland who wants to play a bit of provincial rugby, he has to pretty much cease playing in the Auckland competition before July the 1st, and he has to play in the other unions or get a couple of games in the other unions club competition, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, interesting. We'll see how see if there are any other moves. Obviously, but Aaron says there's a lot of money in Spuds, but I think also you can remember that the Counties Manukau are pairing up or very closely associated with Moana Pacifica. So will they be looking at having some of their players, or the players that are looking at playing for Moana Pacifica next year, being in that in Counties NPC? Who knows? But I know there are close ties between those.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting if they did get Fafita at Counties Manukau, and if the All Blacks do end up playing some NPC, you can see a back row of Dalton, Papali'i, Hoskins Situtu, and Vai Fafita. Wow.
It's pretty handy, isn't it?
It's pretty
handy.
Well, whilst we expect Papali'i in particular to get in the All Blacks, all those three are not nailed on All Blacks players anyway. So they could even have those.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think that the way that Hoskins was brought into the All Blacks last year, I'd expect him, unless they see somebody head and shoulders above him, I'd expect to see him in the All Black squad. They usually, usually don't end up out after, the way he was brought in. It looked like it's a long-term. Let's use a Tuiava phrase, a long-term project.
They are both, although they are all three of them in and around that conversation, definitely. Look, good evening, everyone in the live chat. We've got Arun, Nocturnal, Crazy MZ. We've got Simon, Jordan, etc. So great to have you all there, guys. Nocturnal says, will counties pay in Spuds then, Aaron? Well, look, counties do give bags of Spuds to the media people when they go along.
And the supporters.
Well, no, this is every game for the media. There's supposed to be a bag of Spuds for us. They're in the media box. So, yes, they do pay in Spuds, as it were, or bribery in Spuds to try and get good media coverage. Some people who have not had good media coverage recently we've got Frizzell down in Dunedin, who has there's an accusation down there of some violence potentially in a nightclub. But with at the moment, That one, he hasn't been arrested, and it's all in investigation stage. The police didn't go to the scene, neither did St John's Ambulance. So we will just have to see how that one pans out. Innocent until proven guilty, and that side of things. So I expect the result to be available, I think, for the Highlanders, unless he is distracted by these things. Also, talking of media coverage, the Chiefs got some negative media coverage about the hotel they stayed in, and it turns out that was bad reporting, as by all accounts, the Chiefs weren't involved in any of the incidents, and the hotel are perfectly happy with how the Chiefs behaved themselves, even in their party. And also with and that actually ended up being supporters on a different floor, had nothing to do with the Chiefs. So you can understand why the rugby sort of players and the unions and the teams are very wary of the media when they get that sort of coverage that's unfounded. Putting on down, so we've had the British and Irish Lions squad has been announced. For me, the big, and it's the most even spread of countries we've seen in a long time for the British and Irish Lions. And one of the interesting things is, how is Warren Gatland going to play? Because he has selected 3 8s, 3 7s, and 8 locks, but no specialist blindsides. So how is that going to pan out? And another key thing is, if you look at his props, they're all scrummaging props rather than props who are known for their sort of ability around the park. So again, clearly the scrum is going to be a big battle area there for the Lions series. Looking at the fixtures, they're going to be in 2 bubbles, one up in Joburg and one down in Cape Town. They'll start up in Joburg playing the Lions, Sharks and Bulls before heading down to sea level to play South Africa A, the Stormers, the first test match, and then returning up to Johannesburg with for the final 2 tests there. So a shortened shortened series as we expected. There is obviously the pre-match game, or the pre-tour game against Japan. But if you think in New Zealand, they played 2 more games than this during the last tour. So it's a shortened tour. But I think this is what we're going to expect to see from now on with this one. As Nocturnal Rights says, there's, the South African journalists are already trash-talking at the Lions squad. But you know what? Whatever. They are the best players from those unions, and it's going to be a good test series, whatever they say. Even if they are saying Grandad Alwyn Jones, I remember them talk about Dad's Army for the England team that won in 2003 at the Rugby World Cup, folks. So yeah, age isn't necessarily a bad thing in this type of thing.
I've got concerns, man. I've got I don't know. I mean, like, it's for the first time ever I'm looking at a Lions team where I actually look at the players and I was like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? I can't remember doing that with the previous Lions squad. Interesting, I thought. And I don't know, just got a gut feel that it's like, I suppose it's an interesting one because it's such an unknown. South Africa haven't played rugby for 2 years. We're relying on, obviously, and Steve will laugh at this, is like, when you go online and you read about how well their players are doing in Europe, in which they are, there's some South African players that are really ripping it up in the European competition, and they'll be coming back, obviously, to form part of that South African team. So, you hear about that, and then you sort of see a lot of names that you don't recognise in the Lions squad. Yeah, I've just got a bad feel because we really do need the Lions to perform well.
Listen,
what do you reckon, Steve?
I think South Africa are a good side, and by right they're called the world champions. But even if you look back to that World Cup, bar that game against England, where I thought they were superb on the day. How well did they really play at that World Cup? Yeah, they beat Wales in what was quite a turgid game of rugby. They got the right side of the draw. I'm making no apologies here for what I'm saying, but that's the reality. They lost to the All Blacks in round robin, and all of a sudden, they some of the veteran writers, Mark Keohane leading the charge, basically calling them calling the captain Alan Wynne-Jones an overhyped plotter. Alan Wynne-Jones is one heck of a player, and he's played some really good rugby for Wales and led them very well through their Six Nations campaign. I'm a little bit staggered with the South African media. I thought that at least the New Zealand media, you play your first game of rugby, you look horrible, and then we give you a bit of stick. These guys haven't even arrived on the shore, and they're already getting a good swift kick to the ribs. I'll tell you what, I'm actually behind the Lions on this.
Oh, absolutely.
I reckon it's an even money. It's an even money series as far as I'm concerned. And I agree with Ashwin. They have not played a lot of rugby. A lot of the British Lions players come out of a very, very tough Six Nations and are not to be underestimated. And I just think it's probably some of the younger ones in the squad. They've got firepower out on the wings with Van der Merwe on the wing, and the young Welsh boy,
Rhys Zammit.
Rhys Zammit, who picked it first that he'd be in the Lions team. I'm looking around for that guy. I don't know where he is.
Yeah.
But, I think the great thing about it is a mixture of youth and experience in this team. And I think for Warren Gatland is to basically bring these guys. Listen, the team has been named, for crying out loud. Just let them get down to the work at the moment. Sure, there's some guys that have missed out, but you know what? In my experience on Lions tours, you always have injuries. So you're only an injury away from getting a call up.
But the thing with that, I agree with Steve there.
Injuries first, though. Yeah, we are. If this Lions squad goes on tour as has been named, it'll be a minor miracle. There are 5 more rounds of Gallagher Premiership to go. There will be injuries. This is not the touring party. This is just who's fit at the moment.
The problem you've got is with the injuries that will happen is that let's say some of the players that have been left out, you want to bring them in. How can you bring them in with the way that they bag the coach in the selection process? Right? It's very difficult. I mean, our friend up front. Oh, geez, the prop Sinclair. With what he said in the public, what he said in the media, what he said about Warren Gatland. You can't bring him in. You can't, because you got to just, what he said. You know how he feels about it. It's a disruptive influence coming into the squad, which you just don't need.
What Carl Sinclair said was he was gutted. Good luck to the boys. And obviously I'm gutted.
He also said that he backs up his claim that Eddie Jones should have been Lions coach ahead of Warren Gatland for the last Lions tour.
Well, that's also his England coach who he wants to keep on board as well, maybe. But I think that kind of stuff will get swept on. Will flow downriver pretty quickly. But as Aaron says, wait until Warren Gatland calls in Clay McMillan to take over as coach anyway.
But then they'll fall over in the final.
Well, there is that. Luckily, there is no final in the British and Irish Lions tour, so it's all
draw on the third test.
Okay.
There'll be a draw on the third test because the Frenchman gets the call wrong.
Guys, I've just been reading a couple of excerpts from the article written by Mark Keir, and he basically says the Lions are in for a whipping before the kickoff in the first test against the Springboks. There are some class players amongst the Lions, with England lock Mario Toji, the only Lions player I'd pick in a Springbok starting 15. Crying out loud! If ever there's a team talk for the British and Irish Lions, it's right there. And quite frankly, I would actually love nothing better than to see the British Lions stick it right up them.
Well, it's like plenty of material being printed already to go up in the dressing room, in the old changing room, I should say.
Look, at the end of the day, it's clickbait, right? That's why he's doing it. He's getting his clicks. He's got his publicity. He's done his job well. As has a certain writer on over on Rugby Pass who was bagging South Africa, saying that they were basically an okay side, but as well. So look,
I actually agree with that, Paul. I actually agree with that. They're actually an okay side, but they ain't streets ahead of everybody. They are. I should always recognise though they are the current world champions at the moment. But man, anybody who says All Black supporters are arrogant, jump on some of these international rugby social network sites, and just some of the stuff you read is just absolute next level. Sure, we've got some supporters in this country who, and usually they're the ones that don't know their rugby. If everybody says wave your hands in the air and sing Kumbaya, they'll probably do that. But you get the really hard bitten rugby supporters that know the game. All Black supporters know when they're in for a contest.
Oh, look, for my mind, South Africa are a very good side. Hence why they're world champions. They're one of the top 3 sides at that tournament, along with England and New Zealand. They were definitely not a mediocre side. But anyway.
But Paul, they're not a side that you go, wow. How are we going to?
Oh no, absolutely. I'm not saying that they're streets ahead of everybody else. I agree, but they are
to stop them. Where that All Black team between 2-11 and 2-15 was like people around the world were trying to come up with game plans to actually stop them. So they were a very good side during their tenure.
Yep. Moving on. Also, the South Africa will be playing Georgia in 2 test matches to warm up for the Lions series. Georgia will also be playing Scotland as well in Georgia after playing 2 games in South Africa. So we've been talking about Tier 2 nations getting Tier 1 fixtures, and hey presto, suddenly Georgia get three in 3 weeks, or whatever it is, or 4 weeks. So after, which is kind of crazy. There's also a whole bunch of other Tier 2 nations that will be getting Tier 1 games during the midweek, during the mid-year window. USA and Japan, for example, playing Ireland, etc. USA playing England. We'll have a look at the mid-year tests next week, though, folks, when that's all sort of panned out and cleared up a bit.
Yeah,
and we haven't quite so much to talk about.
Just because, just as we're coming to air, there's talk about the All Blacks playing Tonga as well. So yeah, big.
Yeah, and there's been talk about the All Blacks playing Fiji twice, also playing Samoa.
I thought the Fiji one's locked in.
The one of the 2 games is locked in.
Oh.
There's also talk of the Wallaroos playing Samoa in the women's game. So let's hope we hear something around who the Black Ferns are playing as well. At least getting games there. Talking of that, then on the Sevens side of things, the Caleb Clark and and I've gone blank now. Nana Satoro both have moved over to the Sevens to head over to Tokyo, and the All Black Sevens and the Black Ferns Sevens will both be in action this weekend against the Australian Sevens team. Is it this weekend? No, it's not, is it? It's the weekend after this. Sorry. As you can see on screen, 21st, 22nd and 23rd of May. Games on the Friday and Sunday, it's Grammar Tech, and games around the Blues versus Royal Tiles Super Rugby match at Eden Park as well. So we'll look at that. Aaron says he thinks that the 2 games against Fiji are locked in. Look, who knows? Well, we'll wait and see. It probably is going to happen, but we'll have to. I'm not sure it's been fully finalised, but I know it's heavily rumoured, so it's probably going to happen. The Sevens teams will then head over to Australia to play some games in June, ahead of heading up to Tokyo for the Sevens tournament up there. Any other news, boys, or can we wrap up the news section? Stephen forgets to mute his mute himself again.
Nope, I think that's. I don't know. Does that wrap it up? Did we get everything, Steve?
I think just the only thing, and I was just basically trying to go through some of my snaps here. The New Zealand under-20 squad was also named today, guys, and it features a few players that have already donned Super Rugby jerseys this year. Of course, Ruben Love from the Hurricanes, just looking through. Gideon Rampling from Waikato, I think he may have already had a run for the Chiefs this year. Anton Segner, who we've seen have a bit of a run for the Crusaders, I think. I stand to be corrected. Josh Lord, also just looking through the team. as well. There's S1E50 from Auckland, and the one I shouldn't really forget, although we'd nice to see him in a Blues jersey, would be Jacob Ratamaivuki Nepkins as well. But I'm pretty sure with Caleb Clark heading across to beg your pardon,
Sevens.
to play sevens, we'll probably see him make his debut rather sooner than later. But good representation from Auckland. Looks like about 7 players from Auckland, half a dozen from Canterbury, and a sprinkling of players there from Otago, Taranaki, and Wellington. We'll probably get a list of those players and put it up on the New Zealand Sports Radio Facebook, Paul, if you haven't found it already. But one of the interesting features of this New Zealand 20s team is it's probably 3 of the tallest locks that they've had in the New Zealand 20s for a very, very long time. The combination of Zach Gardner, there's also the boy Fabian Holland, and of course Josh Lord, who's the tallest in the squad at 2.03 metres. But all those 3 locks, all well in excess of 3 metres. But a lot of excitement as well. Shea Fihaki, who's already represented Canterbury at Mitre 10. It was Mitre 10.
Mitre 10 from NPC.
Last year. Can you remember that big long-range kick that he knocked over from 53 metres? And of course, the likes of Anton Segner has represented, the championship-winning Tasman team. TK Howden from Manawatu is a loose forward who is a real good one to look out for. He plays for the Manawatu Turbos. He's going to run around for them. I think Zach Gallagher from Canterbury, not sure if he's represented Canterbury, but once again, a very, very good player. One player to look out for as well is obviously S1E50, who's a very good hooker from Auckland. And I think he's already had a bit of a run around for the Blues, maybe against when they had a few injury troubles. I think he came off the bench.
Yeah, against Canterbury, against Crusaders. Yeah. It's interesting, actually, how many of those are actually out of the 1A competition as well. The Auckland ones, it's just like, because you've got the Auckland players, then you've got Fihaki, you've got Aidan Morgan that I've sort of picked up as well. That's so it's just like still proving to be quite a feeder.
Oh, absolutely. And a couple of boys out of Kaitaia College and Tapaya Cook Savage, who I know Northland are having conversations with at the moment. Just an amazing talent. And also the very well-performed Brent Evans, who I think went to Auckland Grammar School, if I recall. Both of these boys from Kaitaia, pretty amazing for a small town like Kaitaia to have 2 boys out of the, whilst they're not playing under the Northland banner, out of a small...
Coming originally from there.
Yeah, but some good kids in the side. And Ruben Love, well, we've already seen him play Super Rugby level. So I'm not too sure what their program is though this year, Paul.
No, I'm not sure. I think obviously we're trying to get the Junior Rugby World Championship back underway. I'm not sure, but Aaron said quite a few Auckland players in the under-20 squad. Yep, I wonder how many St Kitts went and got from the rest of New Zealand and brought up to Auckland, but we'll wait and see. I guess the other thing also is Tobias Matson. They're great to see his land on his feet after leaving the Chiefs and is the head coaching that one. So great to see him. That he's got himself a good job there on that one. So then, let's move right on then to our first discussion topic. We're only half an hour in, which means we're going to obviously have struggled to squeeze in our Club Rugby section. But Stephen, why don't you take us through your Super Rugby Aotearoa 15, and we'll have a discussion as to whether this is the best 15 from that. Folks, in the live chat, do let us know your thoughts. You can see this. You can, for those of you who are watching rather than listening to the podcast, you can see this. You can see the names up there already. So throw in your ideas into the live chat while Stephen just takes us through this one, and Ashwin and I pick its pieces.
Yeah, I probably the back three. I probably changed it up a little bit because I kind of look around. I just really went for guys who inform, not necessarily in their positions, and you know.
So basically you cheated then. This isn't actually a 15.
Yeah, kind of. But to be honest, it's the only place I theoretically did cheat, because I kind of looked at the performance of the wingers, and you know, whilst the likes of Jonah Lowe the Chiefs kind of impressed me. And guys like George Bridge and Sevu Reece all had their moments. I think probably a lot of the wingers were a little bit down on form. Even if you look at if you look at the Auckland wings, they were down on form. You look at the Hurricanes wingers. I don't know if Julian Savia really did enough to make this team. So I think you guys will probably be in agreement with the rest of the team. But just that. No, you're not, because you're different, Paul. So you're never gonna agree. You'll probably have your players. I suppose if I had to pick one from the back, I would probably go for Will Jordan. But that means you leave D-Mac and Barrett out of the team, who were consistently good throughout the season.
So clearly, as you say, Ashwin, we've said there that Stevens cheated there by picking 315s in his back three. He's going for Will Jordan, and we'll drop D-Mac and Barrett. So how about we step in there and help him out with the wingers? Nariki had a good had some good performances early on as well.
I think some of the wingers that look good got injured, unfortunately, or we're finding out today or yesterday that Caleb Clark basically been playing with a foot injury for the whole tournament, which begs the question: why is he out there? Considering we've seen how his form is, we've all commented about his form. Why has he been out there if he's got this injury? So, anywho, I would go with Rayasi. I think Rayasi, when he's been given opportunities, has never let the Hurricanes down, I've felt. So, and in fact, brought a lot to their attack. So you'd bring a Rayasi in there. If you're going to be a stickler for the rules and have to have Jordan at the back, you're probably going to go Reece and Rayasi for me.
Not Connor Golden-Bishop. He had a good, or was he?
Again. I mean, like, you got to be on the field, though, mate. Got to be on the field. Is he on the field?
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna stick Stephen for the rules. Then how do you pick a player that's injured?
Well, no,
unless
the players they've got to have played during Super Rugby Aotearoa. That's the only rule, really.
Unless you pick players that have played during Super Rugby Aotearoa.
No, unless he was super good. Where, say for example, in the case of Ardie Savia, who got injured, but he had been consistently good throughout the whole tournament. He never had a quiet game. I know what you're saying about Rayasi. I probably go along with that. But even both Rayasi and Reece had moments where they went a little bit quiet. But in terms of, you're right, in terms of form, they probably were the best two.
If we were going to go for rules and say you can't, they have to play in their positions, and just to sort of like, I mean, to sort of like, Connor Garden-Bishop and Rayasi, so like, I just sort of think for me it'd be Rayasi simply because Connor Garden-Bishop, what we saw with him was just the speed, and he seemed to be able to take the gap and just burn it. But what I like Rayasi's all-round game. He obviously his aerial, his basketball ball handling skills, as well as the pace that he's got as well. And then actually he's got Grant, he's a big guy. He's actually quite physical as well. So I think overall, with more ticks in the box for Rayasi for me.
I'd have to give Rayasi one of the jerseys, either Reece or Connor Golden-Bishop. But I understand why you go for Reece, as he's played more rugby than Connor Golden-Bishop. So happy with that.
No, I think Reece ticks more boxes as well for me. The way that he ran over the top of D-Mac, so it wasn't the fact that it's just his pace, not just his chip kicking ability. He ran over the top of D-Mac to score the try. So
his work rate differentiates himself from a lot of players. He gets out and does some work. Still doesn't. But who did you guys go for in terms of fullback?
I think we had the discussion, Steve. I mean, like for me at fullback, I'd go Barrett at fullback and Jordan on the wing. And do that Corey J. Nizzy Dag thing where you're basically playing two fullbacks in the 14 and 15 number, where they're, dual fullback wing type scenario. And you got two massively capable players that are in the air, so to speak, under the high ball.
Yeah.
I think that's how the All Blacks will go. But from a Super Rugby Aotearoa team, I think I'd go Geordie Barrett as well at 15. It's hard for Will Jordan, but when you've got someone like Geordie Barrett, who's basically carried that Hurricanes team in some games this season.
Yeah, he's got to earn some points for that, eh? The fact that he's actually carried that team at times.
Yeah.
Special mention to Jonah Lowe, though, guys. I thought he was consistently good. ENS, for all of his stepping, I think Paul made a point in a previous show. Yeah, he beats a lot of people, but then you look at the meters. It's sort of like the meters were all spent in steps that he beat the players and didn't make any meters.
Yep. Oh, there's some wonderful feet out there from people, but it's how effective are you with it and playing with the other players around you as well. So moving into your centres, Stephen.
I don't think you could go past these two in the scheme of things. They were terribly consistent, and boy, Havili just adds another dimension with the kicking game and is a genuine line breaker as well. So I think those two pick themselves. I'm just
for those listening to the podcast, the centres he's gone for are Havili and Anton Leonard-Brown. So I was trying to get you to say the names for the podcast listeners.
Sorry.
Gee, I don't know if you can go for Moanga at 10 though, eh?
Hang on, before we get to that,
I don't know if there's much to debate, tell you the truth, from 13 to 9. It's just like, right, that's it. It is. There's nobody else, really.
Yeah, exactly. That like I say, I always knew that the back three in terms of the team that I picked would be the contentious ones if you sort of go through. Are we all in agreement from 13 through to 9?
Yep.
Well, let's talk through those. I guess the question is, will the All Blacks pick Havili at 12? I can't see them doing it. I think they'll go for. I think when Goodhue comes back, I think it'll be Goodhue and Anton Leonard-Brown in there.
He's out for a year.
I can't see them picking Havili. Sorry,
he's out for a year, Paul.
Oh, out for the year, is he? Oh, well, we'll see then how. Whoops.
Look, I mean, let's pretend that Jack Goodhue is available. I would still be seriously looking at Havili. I just think that he brings a lot of options that Jack Goodhue just doesn't. I mean, Jack Goodhue's got some great. He's a fantastic All Black. Don't get me wrong, but geez, David Havili just brings so much more to the table, as well as what Jack Goodhue can do as well.
I think the difference for me is that you've got is that Jack Goodhue, Anton Leonard-Brown, Rico Ioane, Braden Enor, all of these guys are 13s rather than 12s. Yep. I think they all operate much better in that 13 channel than the 12 channel. I think you lose something from Jack Goodhue when you move him in one. He doesn't have the space, that offloading ability that he has, which is phenomenal in that channel. I think that's the problem at the moment is that the All Blacks don't have a 12, and they're looking for a 12. They've got lots of 13s. And I think with when you've got Quinta Pai coming through also, potentially in there, he's also a 13, even though he did play at 12 for the Chiefs this year. There just don't seem to be any 12s at the moment, which is why it's head scratching why Lamapi hasn't been given perhaps some more opportunities.
Actually, interesting you say that, right? I mean, and I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that he's an All Black, but part of the Blues backline problem was the fact is that for some reason they decided that TJ wasn't their 12 when he's the only 12 in the squad, genuine 12 in the squad that can play that position. So you look at a Havili, who's a genuine 12 that can, well, I don't know if he's a genuine 12, but he can play the role of a 12, what we want to see in a 12. And if you think about it, you get someone with the skill set that he has, that means that you can't, as a defensive team, you can't just go, okay, we just got to see what Richie Moanga's doing, right? Now it's like, oh, hang on. If he passes off to Havili, okay, what little trick out of the bag is he going to pull? A little grubber, as we saw in the Super Rugby final, a little grubber kick through or something like that, So now you've got two threats directly from the ball feed from Aaron Smith. So, yeah, I think, it's something that the All Black selectors have to look at seriously.
Well, this is, and you talk about how do we get our two playmakers in? One way of doing it is to play them at 10 and 12. And then you can play left and right. Havili is someone who can play 10. Clearly, that's not his main position, but he can play that. So, maybe you do that rather than trying to have your second playmaker at 15 as the All Blacks have been doing. That's another way of doing that.
Aaron's mentioned Nonu. I mean, like, are we stuck on this concept that we have to have this 12 that can bash it up.
No, but I think you need to have somebody in the back line somewhere who can.
Well,
so the question is, where are you going to put that player?
Yeah, I mean, to say the other option that from an All Black point of view, not from the side that we're looking at, is somebody like Geordie Barrett, who played 12 for the New Zealand 20s, and I believe can move quite freely from first five out to fullback as well. That's an option, but we've seen Havili playing second five since the injury to Jack Goodhue, and he's been more than adequate. He's been very good.
Oh, he's done it since the injury to Braden Ennell, because they moved Jack Goodhue to 13, didn't they? So they started off with Havili's been playing 12 the whole season, which is good. So yeah, they're moving on. So you got Richard Mo'unga at 10, quite obviously, and Aaron Smith at 9 again, quite obviously. Honourable mentions in there, though, obviously to Fakatava, who got injured. Any other 9s and 10s you want to give honourable mentions to?
Yeah, I think Luke Campbell, who came into the Hurricanes as a bit of an unknown quantity. We saw how good he could be for the Bay of Plenty Steamers, but that was a big role to come in and fill the boots of the returning TJ Perenara. Listen, I thought he did pretty well in the scheme of things.
So that's absolutely. That's the back line. Moving on to enter the loosies, you've gone for which is arguable here. Artie Surveyor, do you play him at 7 or 8? You've put him at 8 with Papi Leahy at 7 and Shannon Frizzell at 6. Nocturnal Rights makes a good point that Hemino had a good season as well and could challenge for that 8 jersey. I think he needs at least an honourable mention in there,
as well as Devon Flanders. I thought when Devon Flanders came in and picked up the slack at 8 when Artie was injured, I thought Devon Flanders was really, really good.
There's some players that have been on benches or in the wider squads that just don't get the opportunity that if they did, like Flanders. Another one I'll give a name, that Capelli, when he played against the Blues at Eden Park, and it's just like guys that just came on, take their chances, and they look like, and you look at them and go, wow, why is he in the starting team? Or, why isn't he getting more game time? And Flanders is obviously one of those.
Yeah, Mitch Jacobson, another one who also had another back 3 player who had who had a really good season as well with the Chiefs, or has had so far with the Chiefs. Did get injured though and missed a couple of games from that. And obviously you've got your Satutu and who's your favourite player that had a good game against the Blues but doesn't always?
Peter Gus
Sokula had some good games, as did Artie Surveyor as well. Not Artie Surveyor, wrong person. I'm thinking Akira Iwani also had some decent games, but not consistent across that.
Even Tom Robinson. I mean, so that was one of the great mysteries at the start of the Blues season when they were basically rolling out both Hoskins and Akira at the start of the seasons, and Robinson was coming off the bench, and that was just crazy. Probably wasn't for the form of Frizzell. I would probably go Robinson as my 6. Dalton Papa Ali, I thought in a pack that was disappointing throughout the year, he was always good.
Yep. And Frizzell, someone who initially started to try and do everything himself, but got the balance really well after that in using other players and didn't try and do too much, but was still playing well. Into the locks, Yap says in the live chat that Retallick will be there. Yes, he will be, but this is not the All Blacks 15. This is the Super Rugby Aotearoa 15, and Retallick wasn't there, and hence that's why we haven't included him. But Stephen's gone with Whitelock and Va'ai in there.
Can't argue with it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think Scott Barrett's had a particularly good season. I don't know if the captaincy has weighed on it.
it's not so much that Scott Barrett hasn't, and it's just like I think actually Via has been better than him. One of the things that I've always like over our review shows, whether it's post match or later in the week, it's on the Sunday nights. It's like I've just been in awe at that second row for the Chiefs, two young kids basically compared to everybody they're coming up against. With experience in that second row, and those two guys have been matching it and more. And I think it's well deserved him being named in that 5 jersey.
Yeah, a couple of guys that we thought that it might be breakout seasons, but the cards didn't quite fall for them. Paddy Parkinson getting re-injured. He looked set for a really, really good season. He was very good, and then got injured, and of course Manaki Selby Rickett, and where I'm pretty much going to here is a guy who I thought I was scratching my head when he got selected, and that was Brent Evans. But I'll tell you what, talk about honourable mention. The guy who's probably the oldest player in the competition was simply outstanding.
He took a couple of games to. He took a couple of games to get going, and you sort of initially was like, "Oh my God, what are they?" Go. But you're right, man. When towards the back end of that season, he was really pumping it out and using his experience, and big player for the Highlanders, eh?
Yeah. Stefan just made a good point before about Ethan Blackadder as well. He's one of these. It's kind of like his dad in a way, one of those sort of unfashionable players. But boy, the more you watch of him, his work rate is. And he's just tough. So maybe it's a case of watch that space.
And he knows how to talk with shrug.
Yeah, but he's a
Fulcrest driver as well.
But the thing is that look, I think when we're picking teams like this, one of the things that will always come and be on the can't think of the right words, but not help someone like an Ethan Blackadder out is the fact is that they're getting he's not playing every week on starting 15, so to speak. There's that rotation thing happening, or horses for courses type thinking, situation happening as well. And so when you're picking this and you're seeing players week in week out, like a Dalton, like a Frizzell, then they pop into your mind and they're up front there, if you know what I mean.
But also, we don't have to balance this back row, right? We don't have to pick someone who's an out-and-out workhorse and does lots of stuff you don't see, hits lots of rucks, and does that sort of thing. So there's an element here. This isn't necessarily the right if you were to pick a team to play, this isn't necessarily the team you would pick, but these are the best players that stand out in those positions.
But in saying that, I mean, to tell you the truth, that's pretty much a back row that I'd be picking if it was going to be a team that would play. But what's that?
It's not a bad balanced back row as well. I agree. Yeah. The other players in that locking position, Alcoy, obviously the partner of I, also had a really good season. Patrick Tupolotu is another person we should mention, but has been injured too much, and hence that's why he's not in the conversation in this one as well. Stefan talks about Cowley Tuati, who was good in the Blues pack when Tupolotu went out, but again. Didn't do it over the full season.
I mean, just on that comment, in terms of bit of cattle around him, in terms of in the Blues pack, I think Cattle's fine in the Blues pack. The problem is that the backline is just so dysfunctional that the opposition don't have to defend the backline really. There's nothing, so they can concentrate more on that Blues pack as well. So
because so much happens around their second five.
Yep, pretty much. And, well, actually, they're axis. you could say they're axis, really.
9 and 10. Moving on then to front row, you've gone Angus Ta'avo on at number 3 in the tight head, Cody Taylor at 2, and Aidan Ross at number 1 in the loose head role.
Yeah, that's where I'll probably. Sorry, Steve, you go first.
The reason I went for Tauvau and Ross, they're a great redemption story, because if you think about that game they played in Christchurch, they pretty much got absolutely spat out in that game. But and there was talk that they would struggle in the front row. But boy, they came back. If you think of that game down in Waikato against the Blues, there were times they more than matched the Blues at scrum time, and I think they matched all the teams at scrum time. You think about the penalty that they pulled in the last minute against the Hurricanes. They were the real improvement story of the Super Rugby. I sort of went through every team. I looked at the Blues. To be honest, there was nobody in that front row played well enough, in my opinion, consistently. I looked at the Hurricanes, and I looked around at some of the other teams. I thought, honourable mention, and I think I put him somewhere as one of the rookies of the year. The boy De Groot from the Hurricanes being very good, but I really couldn't go past these two players.
It's been, as Yap says here, interesting to hear De Groot say that Nipo Lualala was his toughest opponent this season. So interesting to hear that one. And yeah, they're definitely honourable mention to De Groot there. I just don't get what's going on at the Blues when you've got two All Blacks in Ofa Tuangafasi and Carl Tuangafakafi, and they're not starting each week. They're coming off the bench,
you got four All Blacks. That's why.
Okay.
You got four All Blacks. You got Carl Tuangafakafi. You've got Ofa Tuangafasi. You got Nipola Lala, and you got Alex Hodgman. So there's four All Blacks there. That's the problem. So what they're doing is that there's some weeks they're starting two, and the next week they're starting the others. So yeah, whether it's working, whether it's the right call or not, and maybe the combinations. There's obviously a few ants running around in Steve's house there.
I don't know what's going on there with the Blues props, or even the Blues full stop.
What I was going to say about the scrums though was the fact is that it's interesting when you look at the beginning of the competition, and you had the Crusaders and Blues in the first couple of games absolutely decimated the opposition at scrum time. End of the competition, every now and then one team had a little bit of dominance, but no team was demolishing any scrums by the end of the competition, really.
Yep, obviously the Crusaders not helped by Joe Moody disappearing off injured. As well. I mean, injuries obviously also playing a part in that as well.
I think maybe part of the problem with the Blues, the four props that they do have, although they're All Blacks props, they're not really ball-playing props.
No.
Offers probably the most ball-playing prop within that four.
And going back to the Lions, interesting to see what we'll see from their props, as they're all scrummaging props, not ball-playing props. Anyway,
yes.
But that's so there we go. I think we've not sort of talked about hookers and honourable mentions. Dane Coles, getting himself into more and more aggro. The older he gets, grumpy old man. We need him to concentrate on his actual rugby, which is very good. Amua came on and had some good cameos as well. But yeah, I don't think you can go past Cody Taylor.
I think Takiaho pushes him close though, for my mind, because I sort of think, I still don't like the number of penalties that Taylor gives away.
Yeah, to be fair though, he was in the first part of Super Rugby. God, he was absolutely outstanding. Tapered off a little bit, but was still good enough. You know what? If Takiaho had a big game in that final, and as Paul mentioned over the weekend, he just didn't get over the gain line.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's just like he tried to have a big game in the final, but he just kept hitting a brick wall, didn't he?
Plenty of trying.
Yeah.
Just in terms of your rookies, I kind of looked at the rookies, and boy, there were some pretty tough choices there, because you had sort of Ethan De Groot, you had Sam Derry, who I thought went all right for the Blues. Connor Garden Bishop was really good. Ruben Love was really good, but I don't know. Did you agree with the two rookies that I went with? And
I can't see them.
Of of De Groot, and I think it was Connor Garden Bishop.
I haven't seen it, sorry, Steve, but to be honest with you, I'll probably go Himino.
Oh,
I think it's a bit calling Himino a rookie after being a Japanese international for so long and with plenty of caps for the Sunwolves. I don't think we can really put Himino in the rookie category. I think that was really harsh, but a really strange one by the Highlanders. To be honest with you, I think calling Himino a rookie is wrong.
I suppose there's a rookie to the Super Rugby competition, right? That's what they're sort of basically going with, aren't they? But I mean, although I've just said it myself, I agree. Yeah. It's just like with a rookie, you're actually looking at a young kid that's come into Super Rugby.
Yeah, and put his hand up, and put his hand up and taking his chances. Good. Probably, I suppose you could almost call Fakatava
a rookie.
And he
he played last year, though, didn't he? Did he play last year?
He was in the squad last year, so maybe it could. It would have been interesting to see how that played out. I also mentioned that what I thought were the two best individual performances, and I couldn't go past Geordie Barrett's performance against the Hurricanes, and I think it was round 4. I mean to say 3 tries, all 30 points. Just super amazing. It certainly put a damper on Aaron Smith as being. I think on that night he was named the most capped Highlander, if I recall, on that particular night. So yeah, it sort of dampened his party, so to speak. And call me a little bit. Listen, I went for Gus Sawakula as the other standout performance. He may not ever play a game like that ever again, but gee, it was. If you're going to play a good one, that's a damn good one. Maybe somebody should tell him every week that you're playing the Blues every week. Yeah, I know we're playing the Chiefs. I know we're playing the Hurricanes, but you're actually playing the Blues. Just realise you're playing the Blues.
You're going down the water boy path there.
Don't worry. The Blues away kit this year yellow. Off you go. I don't know. Not much to. I don't know. I was trying to think of a game or best game of the competition. I'm thinking maybe, I don't know, Paul, you were there. Maybe that Crusaders Chiefs game down in Hamilton. That was a hell of a game. Yeah, it was a cracking game. Absolutely. Yeah, that's. I mean, you look at all the Chiefs wins this year. They're all cracking games down to the last minute, weren't they? So. I can see Ashwin going anytime the Crusaders got beaten. It was a really, really good game.
Actually, yeah, that game, that Highlanders Crusaders game in Christchurch was a pretty good game.
Nariki versus the Chiefs in round 2. That was also a good performance. We'll get going back quite a long way.
But we're all old. Well, Steve and I are old. Trying to remember round 2. Come on, Nocturnal.
No, he's right. That was a very good performance. I think I can still hear Cornflake shouting in my ear after that game. So it was pretty amazing.
That was in the Tupperware container.
Yeah.
Yep. So that wraps up Super Rugby Aotearoa, and we're on to Super Rugby Trans-Tasman next weekend. Just very quickly, the laws that we're going to play. So basically, what they've decided is that they'll only use the laws that both competitions used. So that means there's no captain's challenge. That means there's no 50-22 or 22-50. It means there's no golden point or golden try because they had different rules there. So what that does mean is we've still got the goal line dropout and we've still got extra time in the final.
Well, that makes sense. You need extra time in a final.
Which Ashwin's all about. And, you know, for that final, I don't mind because I've not got another final to get onto. Whereas if the Super Rugby Aotearoa had extra time, I'd have missed the next final, which is not on.
You wouldn't have. Why would you have missed the final if Aotearoa would have had the extra time?
So they went extra time, then they went extra time for golden point. So if they did, and at the end of that, they would have a kicking competition. So
there was an hour break. There's an hour break between.
If you got through all of that, I think you'd have been close.
Yeah, it would be close. Absolutely, and we wouldn't have had time to do our show.
Which is the most important part of the weekend for me. Yeah, I can't do my shows. Jeez, what am I going to do with my life? So look, we're back to pretty much normal laws.
Except goal line dropout, which is just rubbish. which is I haven't met. Well, I think I met one or two people who are outliers, as the saying would go, the term would go, that like goal line dropouts. Goal line dropouts are just absolutely terrible.
I'm not fussed either way.
I just think it's such a rough call on the attacking team, especially when they've just been held up on the line, and it's just like, or it's they've scored a try, but the ref can't see it, and it's like, hang on, now you got to run it back from 50 meters up the field, because that's how far they're kicking it.
Yep, I agree. It's a get out of jail free card.
It's get out, absolutely. If you're attacking side, you want to basically, we're under pressure on our line. Let's hold him. Let's try and get in a tackle where we can hold him up and just drag him over on top of us, and you should be able to seal him off.
So, we'll move on from the laws, because we've had those laws, and we know that it's nothing new to discuss really there. To be honest with you, we've got mixed opinions. Most people in the chat are anti them, anti the goal line dropout. Apart from Nocturnal Rights, who says, no more time wasting scrums.
We like scrums.
Scrums. Nocturnal scrums are a fabric of rugby.
Of the game.
Whether you like the collapse scrums or not, it is what it is. It's the thing that differentiates rugby from rugby league. I like scrums. Sure, I don't like the continuous collapsing and what have you, but then again, that's in the hands of the official to sort out. And in most cases, the scrums go down 2 or 3 times. It's usually an infraction and a penalty anyway. And really, in the modern games, how many scrums are we really seeing?
I like scrums. What I don't like is props taking a knee before every single scrum to get a water break when there's nothing wrong with it.
But one thing they could try at that international level, let's call it that first class level, not below it, but that level is, go back to the old days, just give it a go in terms of the team that putting the ball in gets to call the hit. Give it a go. Just see what happens. And it's just like, now the team that's putting the ball in actually has a benefit of getting to put the ball in. They get the hit. They've got that moment of dominance, even if they're the weakest scrum.
Apart from throwing it behind the second row's feet already that they do.
But I mean, we're looking at how we can try and stabilize the scrum. One way is to allow the team putting it in to call it and get that initial dominance, and and then the ball goes in quicker because they don't have to go, hang on, our prop wasn't quite his leg wasn't in the right position, so I'm holding up.
Now, look, we're way behind time already, guys.
You're not going to go to sleep because I've got to wake up early.
Super Rugby Trans-Tasman expectations then. Hugh Cavill makes a good point on Twitter that the Reds this weekend are $3.55, and you'll get $1.86 for a Kiwi clean sweep. Is this just a one-sided competition, or is it going to be a bit more than that? What are you expecting, Ashwin?
I think I'm the only one that's not in this boat, but I really think that the Reds, Brumbies, and even the Force could bring something to this competition, and it's not going to be as simple as people think. Depending on whether the Reds can bring themselves back up again after the final last week, which would have taken a massive amount out of them, they're a good chance to tip the Highlanders over. I think a better shot than what the TAB's saying.
Yep.
I think they did it last time they were down there too.
So long ago, we're old people. I can't remember.
We can't remember.
Stephen, what are your expectations?
I'm expecting them to be more than capable opposition at home. I just fear when some of these teams have to travel to New Zealand. The likes of the likes of the Rebels and oh god, the Waratahs. I probably fear for them. I hope that they actually listen. The last part of Super Rugby Australia that they showed some improvement, but boy, they'll have to be better than just improved when they hit these shores.
Yeah, now look, I think essentially we're going to, because all the New Zealand sides are going to get 3 points against the Waratahs and the Rebels, that we're going to see 2 New Zealand sides in the final. But I do think that the Reds, Brumbies will be definitely competitive, and that the Force will have their moments as well.
I think the Blues,
I think that the three teams of the Reds, the Brumbies, and the Chiefs have all got it tough in the opening round, having to travel, especially the Reds with the short turnaround to Friday night, whereas the Crusaders, oh boy, what a surprise! The draw suits them perfectly. They've got a home game in round one, and it's not a short turnaround either; it's a normal turnaround. So yes, so I think that's how it's going to be, and of course, obviously, injuries are going to be part of the story as well. Interesting that Aaron's about different interpretation from Aussie refs compared to New Zealand refs. It's going to be interesting to see how all the new variations and how well that evens itself out between the two sets of refs. But I don't think it's going to be one-sided domination as the TAB has it. But I do think we'll see two New Zealand teams in the final because of those two weaker sides in the Australian Conference.
Yeah, Paul, just interestingly on Stuff Rugby, they're actually saying that then the Chiefs are faced with a little bit of a locking crisis at the moment, with both Mitchell Brown and Naitoa Akoi both ruled out for the trip to Western Australia. So they're talking about maybe Zane Capelli acting in a sort of hybrid role, so he might be slotted into lock. I find that really amazing that there's in that franchise that there's not a lot of locks around in the Chiefs area. That's come up on Stuff, and I also see that the Highlanders have also added 4 players to their squad as well. So they've already got injuries even, and this is even before they've actually started.
And that is going to be a problem. I mean, as you say, I'm a bit surprised because thinking that Josh Lord and I thought Langland McFonnell.
Yeah, Lachlan McConnell. Yeah.
Lachlan who?
Lachlan McConnell. That's how you say his name.
McConnell. Okay. Silent W. I'm surprised that they're young guys, but I thought Josh Lord had a couple of good run-outs, so I guess they must be injured as well. But
and the boy who played against the Blues for Fita also as well. He's more of a 6, but once again, when you consider the Chiefs have been using a lot of 6, I actually think it's a really good opportunity for some of these New Zealand teams to actually blood a few guys as well. Obviously, with the Blues, they're going to have to blood, give a couple of young wingers an extra a bit of a crack, and hopefully let's see more of Zane Sullivan as well for the Blues. Teams like that. But you look around, Ashwin mentioned before, a lot of these squads have actually got some young guys that are just sitting there waiting for the opportunity. Well, here's your chance to roll them out. Yeah,
they've really not had much rugby. Simon Hughes made some points there, about Super Rugby Trans-Tasman to have semi-finals. Look, with the final being on the 19th of June, you'd think they would have had time for a semi-final and a final before the July tests, but I'm guessing the test teams the Wallabies and the All Blacks want to have sort of warm-up camps. But when you think the All Blacks are up against Fiji and Samoa, probably maybe Tonga, that the All Blacks could have coped. For the Wallabies up against 3 tests against the French, be a bit different. Thank you, boys. Look, Stephen, I'm very sorry we've not had time for your club section this week.
I was going to say before I go, I better tell Stefan what my tweet was relating to about the forklift driver. And I was sort of saying, just quickly, in a time when we've talked about players and how hard it is, and they have to do 3 jobs and then go to training, it's just like the dude that won another Super Rugby title 2 in a row was driving a forklift whilst trying to become a professional rugby player. That was my point.
Okay.
But there's not enough time to talk about anything, so we'll have to close the show off.
Very briefly, that's before he became a professional player, not someone who's playing All Blacks level or international level. But anyway.
Oh no. He was fully immersed in the Tasman team, and he was also playing. He was still on the fringes of Super Rugby as well. 2 years ago. Are you telling me he wasn't on fringes of Super Rugby 2 years ago?
I'm saying someone who is an established Blackfern, established international, is a different is a different thing. But anyway, as you say, we haven't got time to go through it. Thank you very much, Ashwin, for your time. Thank you very much, Stephen Harris, for your time. Folks, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing, and here tomorrow evening with a standoff show and hopefully the Nick's newsletter if the football boys can actually get their act together for 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. tomorrow. We'll be back with post-match reactions this weekend to the Highlanders versus the Reds and what's the Saturday night game in New Zealand? I've gone and forgotten. The Crusaders versus the Brumbies. So 2 finalists there. So 2 cracking games we'll have post-match reactions for this weekend. Do join us for those as well. Oh, also Thursday, Cornflake and Shane will be previewing the Trans-Tasman games.
That could be interesting.